Settle in now. Let the day soften around you, and imagine the world growing hushed, as though the air itself is ready to rest. Your breathing slows, your body grows heavy, and a gentle calm stretches over you like a blanket. This is a story for the quiet hours, a slow drift through the Roman Empire, not as it raged in battles or thundered in triumph, but as it lived, breathed, and whispered in its people. Tonight, Rome will not be loud. It will be peaceful, steady, and dreamlike, a companion for your thoughts as you grow sleepy. Picture the city of Rome at dawn. The rooftops glow orange with the first rays of the sun. The Tiber River glimmers faintly, its surface broken by the splash of fishermen casting nets. Far away, in the hills, farmers rouse their oxen and begin to plough the rich soil. The great city wakes slowly. Shopkeepers unlatch shutters with a groan of wood. Dogs stretch and yawn in the streets, and children rub sleep from their eyes, eager to chase one another. For the wealthy, mornings often began with the salutatio, a quiet ritual of clients lining up to greet their patron. For the ordinary, mornings were simple: sweep the threshold, light the cooking fire, prepare for another day. Teeth too were tended, though not in the ways we know. Romans brushed with powders made from ground bones, shells, or charcoal. It may not sound pleasant, yet it kept their smiles bright enough. Breakfast was never a grand affair, just bread dipped in watered wine, perhaps olives, perhaps cheese, but always small, always light. It was fuel for the morning, nothing more. The true pleasures of the table came later, and what pleasures they were! Imagine reclining in a grand dining room, marble floors beneath, frescoes painted above, couches covered in woven fabrics. Servants drift by with trays of figs, honey cakes, fresh fruit, and platters of meat. Dormice stuffed with nuts and herbs are roasted crisp. A pot of spiced wine, sweet with honey, warms the air. The famous Roman cookbook of Apicius described even more extravagant meals. Flamingo tongue, for instance, thought to be rare and divine. Yet not all Romans feasted so. The poor ate simply: porridge of barley or oats, bread bought from a common oven, beans simmered slowly in clay pots. But no matter the wealth, olive oil, golden and smooth, was always close at hand. It flavoured, nourished, and even lit their lamps when night fell. Beyond the homes, the forum pulsed with life. Imagine walking slowly among its crowded stalls. From Egypt came papyrus, from Gaul came wine, from Syria came silk, and from Africa came ivory. The scents alone could make one dizzy. Pepper, saffron, cumin, cinnamon, all carried along endless trade routes. Bakers called out the price of loaves. Barbers sharpened razors in anticipation of their first customers, and children darted like sparrows between legs and carts. The sound was constant, more like a song than a clamour. And yet, no Roman day was complete without the baths. They were places of water, but also of conversation, learning, and rest. A visitor might begin in the tepidarium, a warm chamber to relax, then pass into the caldarium, where steam rose thick, warming the skin and easing the muscles. Finally, one would plunge into the frigidarium, a pool of cold water that shocked the body awake. Beneath the floors, the hypocaust system carried hot air, keeping the rooms evenly warm. A kind of central heating that would not return to the world for centuries. Between dips and steam, people read scrolls in libraries, strolled through gardens, or talked business in shaded courtyards. The baths were Rome's living rooms, where strangers and senators alike could linger in peace. Let us pause now and turn to its emperors, not to memorize names and dates, but to glimpse them as people. Augustus, the first emperor, preferred modest meals of bread and cheese. He avoided luxury, though he ruled the world. Claudius, shy and scholarly, surprised all by expanding the empire into Britain. Nero, flamboyant and restless, built his golden palace with ceilings that turned like the stars, dining halls that glittered with jewels. He even took to the stage as a singer, scandalous in the eyes of Rome, yet beloved by himself. And Marcus Aurelius, calm and thoughtful, wrote by lamplight words of philosophy that have soothed souls for centuries. These men, varied as they were, remind us that Rome was as much about human nature as about marble and power. Now imagine the great Colosseum in sunlight. Tens of thousands sit beneath velaria, massive awnings stretched high, shading them from the heat. The murmurs of anticipation rise like the tide, though in our minds we hear them softly, as though distant. The gladiators step forward, their armor catching the light, their movements steady, almost graceful. Many contests were not fights to the death, but carefully staged performances, with rules, referees, and celebrated champions who were cheered like modern athletes. The arena itself was alive with spectacle. Exotic animals, sea battles staged with flooding water, even mechanical lifts that brought surprises from beneath the sand. Romans loved their entertainments beyond the Colosseum too. Chariot races thundered around the Circus Maximus, the sound of hooves like a storm. Children played knucklebones, rattling them like dice. Families gathered for theatre, for music, for festivals lit with torches and songs. Their games were not just distractions, but reminders of community, of joy found in shared moments. How did such a vast empire sustain itself? The answer lies in its roads and its legions. Roads stretched outward like veins, layered with stone and gravel, engineered to endure. Even today, some remain in use. Soldiers marched these paths swiftly, carrying news, trade, and order. All roads led to Rome was not just a saying, but a truth, for milestones marked distances back to the golden heart of the Forum. Legions themselves were disciplined and devoted, each carrying standards topped with sacred emblems. To lose one was the gravest dishonor, a wound to pride as deep as any battlefield loss. Yet for all their discipline, these soldiers were also men, writing letters home, carving graffiti into walls, laughing, singing, and resting under the same stars as everyone else. But Rome was more than its center. Picture a vineyard in Gaul, where a farmer tends his vines as cicadas hum in the heat. Picture a fisherman along the Nile, his net heavy with shimmering catch. Picture a teacher in Antioch, reciting verses of Homer to pupils who yawn, their heads heavy with sleep. These quiet lives made the empire whole, as much as marble palaces or triumphal arches. The pulse of Rome was found in bread rising in ovens, in wool dyed red in small workshops, in whispered prayers at household shrines. And yet, nothing endures forever. Over time, the empire weakened, frayed by pressures both within and without. Economic troubles drained its wealth, invasions pressed against its borders, politics grew unstable. In 476 CE, the Western Empire fell, though the Eastern Empire in Byzantium carried its legacy for nearly another 1,000 years. But even in its decline, Rome left gifts that linger still. Its language became the seed of many others. Its laws shaped justice long after. Its arches, domes, and aqueducts inspired builders for centuries. Rome was more than power. It was memory, resilience, and the quiet strength of endurance. The morning sun spills softly over the rooftops of Rome, painting them in gold. An average man, neither rich nor poor, stirs awake in his modest insula, an apartment block. It is made of brick and timber. The walls are thin, the neighbours close, and the smell of smoke from nearby hearths drifts into his small room. He shares this space with his wife and children, all bundled together in the same cramped quarters. The mattress is little more than straw, the blanket worn with years of use, yet it is familiar, comforting, and theirs. He rises before the city fully wakes. His wife is already moving quietly, stirring the embers of last night's fire so she can coax them back into a flame. She will prepare a simple breakfast, coarse bread, perhaps dipped in watered wine or drizzled with a touch of olive oil, if they have any to spare. A handful of olives or figs might accompany the meal when fortune smiles, but most days it is bread alone. The children rub sleep from their eyes, their hair tangled, their chatter soft. He feels the weight of responsibility. He must earn enough today to keep them fed tomorrow. After breakfast, he dresses in a plain tunic belted at the waist. His sandals are worn, the leather cracked, but still sturdy enough to last another season. His wife helps tidy the children, who will spend the day near her, playing in the street or helping with errands. She may sell small items in the market or take in mending from neighbours, but her life is tethered to the household. He, on the other hand, steps out into the busy world of Rome. The streets are already alive. Merchants set out their goods, calling loudly to attract customers. Donkeys bray, pulling carts laden with amphorae of wine or oil. The clatter of iron-shod wheels on cobblestones fills the air. He walks carefully, for the streets are narrow and crowded, and refuse often gathers in the gutters. Passing beneath an archway, he greets a neighbour and then turns toward his place of work. Our man is no senator, no soldier of fame. He is an artisan, perhaps a stonemason. His hands are rough, his arms strong, his back accustomed to strain. He works for a contractor who has been hired to repair a section of a public building. The work is steady, and that alone is a blessing. Many men wander each day to the forum, seeking day labour, hoping someone will hire them to carry goods, build walls, or haul water. He does not take steady work for granted. At the construction site, the rhythm of the day begins. He lifts stones, chips away with iron tools, mixes mortar. Sweat quickly beads on his brow under the Roman sun. His body knows the movements well, a steady dance of strength and effort. Around him, men shout instructions, laugh, or curse when stones slip. The noise of hammers and chisels blends with the background hum of Rome itself. The voices of thousands, the barking of dogs, the distant sound of a temple bell. By midday, his stomach growls. He takes his meal where he can, often on the site itself. Lunch is light, more bread, perhaps some beans or cheese wrapped in cloth from home. If he has earned a little extra in recent days, he might buy a hot snack from a street vendor, maybe lentils, or even a sausage sizzling on a brazier. Food bought from vendors fills the air with tempting smells, from fried fish to honeyed pastries. But indulgence is rare. He eats simply, then wipes his hands on his tunic and returns to his work. As the day wears on, his muscles ache. Dust clings to his skin and the sun feels heavier. Yet he does not resent the labour. In truth, he feels a certain pride in knowing that the stones he places will remain long after he is gone. Rome itself is built upon the backs of men like him, ordinary, often nameless, yet vital. His thoughts sometimes drift to his children. He wonders if his son will take up the same trade, or if fortune will carry him to something gentler. He hopes his daughter will marry well. perhaps to a man who can provide a steadier life. Such worries are quiet companions, walking alongside him as faithfully as his shadow. When the workday ends, he makes his way home through the busy streets. Crowds press around him. Orators in the forum speak to small gatherings, gesturing grandly. Beggars extend hands for alms. Soldiers in armour march past, the clink of their gear echoing. And all the while, the smells of cooking waft from taverns and homes alike. He stops at a market stall, spending a few coins on vegetables, onions, maybe lentils, that his wife will turn into a stew. If there's a little more money in his pouch, he might bring home a treat, a piece of fruit, or even a small piece of meat. Back in his insula, his wife is tending the evening meal in a clay pot over the small hearth. The children rush to greet him. They chatter about their day, tugging at his tunic. His heart softens at their joy, though he is tired. The family eats together, sitting on stools or cushions. The meal is plain but filling. Bread to dip in the stew, perhaps a bit of cheese, and water or watered wine to drink. It is not a feast, but it is shared, and that makes it rich enough. After supper, the family might step outside. The streets cool as night falls, and neighbours gather to talk. The children play simple games with stones or wooden toys. Adults share news, laugh, or complain about rents, taxes, or the price of grain. Sometimes music drifts through the night, a flute, a lyre, or the song of a neighbour humming to herself as she works. The air smells faintly of smoke and cooking fires, of humanity crowded together in one great city. Before long, darkness deepens, and the family returns indoors. Their single lamp casts a warm glow. Shadows stretch long on the walls. The man settles himself on his straw mattress, his wife beside him, their children curled nearby. He feels the soreness of the day in his bones, yet there is also a quiet satisfaction. He has worked, he has provided, and tomorrow he will do the same. As his eyes grow heavy, he listens to the sounds of Rome at night, the muffled voices through thin walls, the cry of an infant somewhere above, the bark of a dog in a distant alley. The city never truly sleeps, but within his small home, peace settles. He closes his eyes, drifts into slumber, and dreams. Dreams not of glory or empire, but of his children laughing in the sunlight, of bread warm from the oven, of simple joys that make a life whole. This is the life of an ordinary Roman man, not a general, not a senator, but the beating heart of Rome. His days are filled with labour, his meals modest, his joys small. And though history may not remember his name, the world he helped build still whispers of his presence. The story of the Roman Empire begins long before it was truly an empire. At its heart lies the city of Rome, founded, so the legend goes, in 753 BCE by Romulus, the survivor of a pair of abandoned twins raised by a she-wolf. For centuries after, Rome was a kingdom, ruled by kings whose names were woven with myth. But in 509 BCE, the Romans expelled their last king, Tarquin the Proud, and swore never again to be ruled by a monarch. In his place, they built a republic, a system of magistrates, senators, and assemblies that gave voice, though unevenly, to the citizens of Rome. The Roman Republic lasted nearly 500 years, marked by both triumph and turmoil. During this time, Rome expanded from a small city-state into a power that dominated Italy and eventually the Mediterranean. Its armies defeated rivals like Carthage in the Punic Wars, a series of brutal conflicts that included the famous General Hannibal leading elephants across the Alps. By the end of these wars, Rome commanded enormous territories in Spain, North Africa, and beyond. Yet the Republic's success also sowed seeds of instability. Vast conquests brought wealth, slaves, and resources, but also deep inequality. Powerful generals grew ambitious, building personal armies more loyal to them than to the state. Civil wars erupted as figures like Marius and Sulla, then later Pompey and Julius Caesar, clashed for control of Rome. Julius Caesar, brilliant and bold, pushed the Republic to its breaking point. After conquering Gaul in the 50s BCE, he returned to Italy with his army, crossing the Rubicon River in defiance of the Senate. Civil war followed. Caesar emerged victorious and was declared dictator for life. Yet in 44 BCE, he was assassinated on the Ides of March by senators who feared he would crown himself king. His death did not save the Republic. It only hastened its end. In the years that followed, more civil wars consumed Rome. Caesar's adopted heir, Octavian, eventually triumphed over rivals like Mark Antony and Cleopatra of Egypt. In 27 BCE, Octavian took the title Augustus, becoming the first emperor of Rome. The Republic was gone, though its name lingered. The empire had begun. Under Augustus, Rome entered a period known as the Pax Romana, or Roman peace. For more than 2 centuries, relative stability allowed trade, culture, and prosperity to flourish. Augustus reformed the government, strengthened the frontiers, and sponsored grand building projects. Poets like Virgil, Horace, and Ovid wrote works that would shape Western literature. The empire stretched from Spain to Syria, Britain to Egypt, a vast, interconnected world bound by Roman law, language, and roads. Not all emperors were as wise as Augustus. Some, like Caligula, were infamous for cruelty and extravagance. Others, like Nero, are remembered for corruption and for the Great Fire of Rome in 64 CE, after which he built his enormous golden house. Yet the empire endured, often stabilized by capable rulers such as Vespasian and his sons, Titus and Domitian, who built the Colosseum and restored order. The 2nd century CE is often seen as the empire's height. Under emperors like Trajan, Rome expanded to its greatest territorial extent, stretching deep into Mesopotamia. Hadrian, who followed, chose to consolidate rather than expand, famously building Hadrian's Wall in Britain as a northern frontier. Marcus Aurelius, philosopher and soldier, spent much of his reign defending the empire's borders, even as he penned meditations on duty and on the fleeting nature of life. Yet even at its height, cracks showed. Economic strain, plagues, and constant pressure on the borders tested Rome's strength. After Marcus Aurelius died in 180 CE, his son Commodus proved disastrous, indulging in vanity and spectacle rather than governance. His assassination ushered in a period of turmoil known as the Crisis of the 3rd century. From 235 to 284 CE, Rome nearly collapsed under the weight of internal and external threats. Emperors rose and fell at a dizzying pace, often killed by their own soldiers. Provinces broke away, invasions pressed in, and the economy faltered. For a time, it seemed the empire might crumble entirely. Salvation came with strong leaders like Diocletian, who in 284 CE restructured the empire. He divided it into east and west, each with its own ruler, hoping to make administration more manageable. He also strengthened the army and tried to stabilize the economy. For a time, his reforms worked, but the empire had changed forever. In the 4th century, Constantine the Great left another lasting mark. Converting to Christianity, he ended centuries of persecution and gave the once small faith imperial support. He also founded a new capital, Constantinople, on the site of Byzantium, a city that would eventually outlast Rome itself. The empire was shifting eastward toward the wealthier lands of Greece and Asia Minor. Meanwhile, pressures on the Western Empire grew. Germanic tribes, Visigoths, Vandals, Ostrogoths, pressed against the borders. In 410 CE, the Visigoths under Alaric even sacked Rome itself, shocking the ancient world. The empire staggered on, but power weakened and provinces slipped away. Britain was abandoned, Gaul and Spain fell, and Africa was seized by the Vandals. Finally, in 476 CE, the Western Roman Empire came to its symbolic end. The last emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was deposed by the Germanic leader Odoacer. The Eastern Empire, however, continued as the Byzantine Empire, with its capital at Constantinople, preserving Roman law, culture, and traditions for nearly 1,000 more years. Rome's story does not conclude with its fall. Its language, Latin, became the root of the Romance languages, Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian, and influenced countless others. Roman law became the foundation of legal systems across Europe. Its architecture, from aqueducts to amphitheatres, inspired builders for centuries. Its ideas of governance, citizenship, and roads that knit the world together left a mark so deep that even today we say, "All roads lead to Rome." The history of the Roman Empire is the history of rise and fall, of strength and fragility. It began as a small city on the Tiber, grew into a republic, then transformed into an empire that once ruled the known world. It weathered centuries of triumphs and crises before splitting in two, with one half crumbling and the other enduring. Through it all, Rome was never just an empire of stone and soldiers. It was an empire of people, of stories, of resilience. And though the empire itself is long gone, its shadow still stretches quietly across the world we know today. The story of Rome is not only the story of kings, senators, and emperors, but also of battles. The empire was forged through war, maintained by war, and eventually undone by war. To understand how the Romans built their world, we must follow their legions into the dust and blood of their campaigns. Beginning with the earliest struggles, moving through their greatest triumphs, and ending with the defeats that signaled their fall. Rome's earliest wars were not fought against distant peoples, but neighbours on the Italian peninsula. After casting out their last king in 509 BCE, the Romans spent centuries securing their home. They battled the Etruscans to the north, the Sabines and Samnites in the central mountains, and the Greek colonies in the south. The three Samnite wars, fought between 343 and 290 BCE, were especially important. The Samnites were fierce mountain fighters, skilled at ambushes. The Romans adapted, developing the Manipular Legion, a flexible fighting system where small units could maneuver independently. This gave them an edge in rough terrain and became the backbone of Roman military success for centuries. By 275 BCE, after defeating King Pyrrhus of Epirus, whose costly Pyrrhic victories gave the world a new phrase, Rome had effectively united Italy under its command. From this secure base, the Republic could now look outward. The great enemy of Rome's early expansion was Carthage, a wealthy maritime power based in North Africa. The Punic Wars, stretching from 264 to 146 BCE, were some of the most decisive conflicts in ancient history. The First Punic War was fought mainly at sea, as Rome built its first real navy to challenge Carthage's dominance. The struggle was long and exhausting, but in the end, Rome emerged victorious, winning Sicily, its first province beyond Italy. The Second Punic War was far more dramatic. Hannibal Barca, Carthage's brilliant general, marched an army, including war elephants, over the Alps into Italy. At battles like Trebia, Trasimene, and most famously Cannae, he inflicted devastating defeats. At Cannae in 216 BCE, Hannibal encircled a much larger Roman force, killing perhaps 50,000 men in a single day. It remains one of the greatest tactical victories in history. Yet Hannibal lacked reinforcements, and Rome's resilience was unmatched. They avoided direct battle with him, attacked Carthage's holdings elsewhere, and eventually sent Scipio Africanus to strike Carthage itself. At the Battle of Zama in 202 BCE, Scipio defeated Hannibal, ending the war. The Third Punic War, from 149 to 146 BCE, was the final blow. Carthage was besieged, stormed, and utterly destroyed. Its walls were torn down, its population enslaved, and its land annexed. Rome now ruled the Western Mediterranean. Rome also turned eastward, where the Hellenistic kingdoms, the heirs of Alexander the Great, still ruled. Battles against Macedonia and the Seleucid Empire expanded Rome's reach. At Cynocephalae in 197 BCE, Roman legions defeated the Macedonian phalanx, proving the superiority of their flexible manipular formation over the rigid Greek style. At Magnesia in 190 BCE, they crushed the Seleucids, securing Asia Minor. Greece itself eventually became a Roman province after the sack of Corinth in 146 BCE. This was the same year Carthage fell. By the 1st century BCE, Rome's armies had brought the Mediterranean under their control. Pompey expanded Roman rule into Syria and Judea. Julius Caesar famously conquered Gaul between 58 and 50 BCE, defeating tribes like the Helvetii and the Nervii. His victory at Alesia against Vercingetorix cemented Rome's hold over modern France. But Rome's conquests enriched it in ways that destabilized it. Generals with loyal armies turned their power inward, and civil wars became frequent. Caesar defeated Pompey at Pharsalus in 48 BCE, then triumphed in further campaigns. After his assassination, another round of civil wars followed. At Actium in 31 BCE, Octavian, the future Augustus, defeated Mark Antony and Cleopatra in a massive naval battle off Greece. This victory made Octavian sole ruler, ending the Republic and beginning the Empire. Under the Empire, Rome continued to expand. In 43 CE, Claudius invaded Britain. In 101 to 106 CE, Emperor Trajan fought the Dacian Wars, defeating King Decebalus and incorporating Dacia, modern Romania, into the empire. His victory was commemorated by Trajan's Column, still standing in Rome today. The legions won countless victories through discipline, engineering, and organization. They built roads, bridges, and fortifications that allowed them to sustain long campaigns. Rome's armies could besiege mighty cities, cross rivers, and outlast foes with superior logistics. Yet Rome also suffered great losses. In 9 CE, 3 legions under Publius Quinctilius Varus were ambushed in the Teutoburg forest by Germanic tribes led by Arminius. The legions were annihilated, perhaps 20,000 men killed. The disaster shocked Rome so deeply that the empire never again attempted to conquer Germania beyond the Rhine. Earlier, during the Republic, Cannae had shown the vulnerability of Rome to brilliant tactics. Later, in 378 CE, the Battle of Adrianople saw Gothic cavalry shatter the Roman army and kill Emperor Valens. It revealed how far Rome's military dominance had slipped by late antiquity. Rome held its empire through military presence, infrastructure, and diplomacy. Garrisons were stationed in frontier provinces. Roads allowed armies to move swiftly. Fortified camps became towns, spreading Roman culture. Client kings were used where possible, loyal to Rome in exchange for support. The legions themselves were symbols of Rome's strength. Soldiers swore loyalty to the emperor, serving 20 years or more. They were well trained, well equipped, and organized into cohorts and centuries that could adapt to different terrains and enemies. But the empire's decline came gradually, through both external pressure and internal weakness. In the 3rd century, constant civil wars and invasions stretched Rome thin. The Persians defeated the Romans at Edessa in 260 CE. They captured Emperor Valerian, a humiliation that shocked the empire. In the 4th and 5th centuries, new waves of migrants and invaders crossed the borders. The Huns, led by Attila, devastated provinces, though Rome managed to check them at the Battle of the Catalaunian Plains in 451 CE. Still, the Western Empire weakened. The sack of Rome by the Visigoths in 410 CE and by the Vandals in 455 CE revealed how vulnerable the city had become. Finally, in 476 CE, Odoacer deposed Romulus Augustulus, the last Western emperor. The Eastern Roman Empire, or Byzantium, survived, but the Western Empire was gone. From the first skirmishes in Italy to the great clashes with Carthage, from Caesar's campaigns in Gaul to the loss in Teutoburg Forest, Rome's history is written in battles. These struggles forged its empire, maintained its borders, and, in time, broke its strength. Rome's genius lay not only in winning wars, but in learning from them. They absorbed tactics from enemies, adapted formations, and built infrastructure to support their armies. Yet, over time, the weight of defending such vast lands proved too much. The Roman Empire was born in war, thrived in war, and was ended by war. Its legions no longer march, but its memory endures, in ruins, in roads, in the very languages we speak, all reminders of battles fought long ago. The day is done. The torches are lit along the corridors, their golden light flickering softly against marble walls. A Roman leader, weary from the demands of governance and war, begins his retreat into the evening. The bustle of the forum, the petitions of senators, the commands given to soldiers, all of it fades as he steps into the hush of his private chambers. The air is scented with lavender and rosewater, poured gently into bronze basins. Attentive servants tend him. Outside, the night breeze rustles through cypress trees in the villa's gardens, carrying the faint murmur of fountains that never cease their flowing song. It is in this quiet that the mind begins to loosen its hold on duty, and the body remembers its need for rest. The leader reclines upon a couch, the soft weave of linen beneath him, and accepts a final cup of warm spiced wine. The taste is mellow, infused with honey and herbs from distant provinces, cinnamon from the east, rosemary from the hills of Italy. As he sips, he lets his gaze rest upon the painted walls, where delicate frescoes show mythic scenes of gods in gentle repose. Jupiter is enthroned in the clouds, Venus drifts over calm seas, and Apollo strums his lyre in eternal golden light. These images, familiar and soothing, seem to whisper of peace more lasting than any empire could offer. Baths await him. The servants draw him into the tepidarium first, where warm waters embrace tired muscles. He drifts in the pool, the gentle heat coaxing away the stiffness of the day. Then comes the caldarium, steam thick and soft, curling against the skin, opening the breath. For a while, he allows himself to be nothing more than a body in warmth, a being suspended between water and air. To finish, he enters the frigidarium, plunging into cool, refreshing waters that quicken the senses before sleep. The cycle of warmth and coolness, of pressure and release, is like a lullaby for the flesh, and he feels himself sinking into calm. After the baths, oils are rubbed into his skin. Olive oil, rich and fragrant, pressed from groves not far from the city. The servants work carefully, easing tension from his shoulders, smoothing the lines of strain from his face. He remembers campaigns and battles, triumphs and losses, but in this moment all seems far away. The empire can rest. The general must too. In the triclinium, a light supper is set before him. It is not the feasts of celebration, with endless courses and riotous laughter, but a quiet meal meant to settle the spirit. Fresh bread, soft cheese, figs glistening with sweetness, a dish of olives steeped in herbs. A bowl of dates rests nearby, their honeyed flesh a last indulgence before bed. As he eats slowly, he thinks of the far reaches of his empire that brought these gifts. Grain from Africa, wine from Gaul, spices from Arabia, marble from Greece. The world is gathered at his table, yet tonight he asks only for enough to soothe him toward dreams. When the meal is finished, he returns to his chambers. The room is dimly lit now, only a few lamps burning low. The bed, vast and adorned, awaits him. Its frame is carved of dark wood, its coverings of fine wool and linen layered to cradle him in softness. A servant sprinkles the sheets with petals of rose and lavender, their fragrance delicate in the still air. Another brings a small harp, playing a gentle melody, notes rising and falling like the quiet sigh of the sea. The leader lies back, his head resting upon pillows filled with down. He exhales, long and deep, releasing the weight of the day. He thinks of the legions at the frontiers, of the senators debating in the forum, of the citizens filling the streets of Rome. But he also thinks of the eternal cycles of the world, the rising and setting of the sun, the flowing of rivers, the turning of the seasons. Empires rise and fall, but the night remains constant and forgiving. In his imagination, he drifts to the countryside. He sees golden fields waving gently in the wind, vineyards heavy with grapes, shepherds guiding their flocks beneath the stars. The noise of the city fades, replaced by the hum of crickets and the soft call of owls. He feels himself walking barefoot through cool grass, the earth firm and patient beneath him. The sky above is vast and full of stars, each one like a lamp hung by the gods to remind men of their place. The empire is great, yes, but the universe is greater still, and in its quiet vastness he feels safe. As sleep approaches, he imagines himself not as ruler, but as man. He recalls his youth, when he raced along the Tiber's banks, laughing, when the weight of the world had not yet pressed upon his shoulders. He remembers the warmth of his mother's embrace, the stories told at night of heroes and gods, the sense that life stretched endlessly ahead. These memories, gentle and unburdened, lull him into a softer state of being. The lamps are extinguished, one by one, until only moonlight filters through the shutters. The air is cool, carrying the scent of night-blooming flowers from the garden. His body, eased by wine, baths, oils, and song, feels heavy and content. His mind, once sharpened by politics and war, now drifts like a boat on calm waters. He lets himself go, surrendering to the pull of rest. And as he sinks into dreams, he carries with him the serenity of the moment, the knowledge that empires may pass, but the sweetness of sleep, the simple peace of the night, belongs to every soul. He drifts deeper, surrounded by silence, and the world outside recedes. The marble halls, the torches, the armies, and the forum all fade. What remains is only the rhythm of his breath, slow and steady, a tide rolling gently to shore. The Roman leader is at rest, wrapped in luxury and in quiet. The empire sleeps with him, lulled by the same night sky, the same eternal stars. And in this calm, in this gentle yielding to sleep, he finds a peace greater than conquest, greater than power, the peace of surrendering to the dream that waits for all men, emperor and commoner alike. Sleep closes in, soft as silk, vast as the night, and he, like the city itself, yields to rest.